Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the channel. Nice to see everyone. This morning, I am going to begin a new format. I wasn't real comfortable sitting at my desk behind this computer talking to the green dot or that good-looking guy you see on the screen. Just didn't feel right. So I came over here across the room and sat down in my comfy chair. And it actually feels more like I'm sitting in Threes Inn talking to you guys as we once did. At any rate, we'll try this format and see how it goes. I think also I can be a little bit more animated as I'm inclined to be, and the story will come across a little better. So that being said, first story I have this morning actually involves a friend of mine, Mikey. Now, I met Mikey in 1977 or so. Both of us worked at the flight safety office at Vance Air Force Base. The story that I'm going to share with you this morning involves Mikey's two chance encounters with General Chuck Yeager. Now, I heard Mikey tell this story on the front nine at Randolph Air Force Base one morning. He and I were just playing together. And he began the story on hole number 1 and finished it around hole number 7. Now, I'm going to give you the short, condensed version without the swearing at my errant shots, which took up most of the time. So that being said, Mikey was an instructor pilot at Hill Air Force Base in the early 70s. And he was dating this gal, and they'd spent the weekend up in the mountains skiing. Well, Sunday afternoon comes and he takes her home, drops her off at the house, and then he returns to his apartment. And soon after he gets into his apartment, he gets a call from his squadron commander telling him that the IG has showed up and that General Yeager has called in with a by-name request to fly with him. And Mikey thinks, well, that's kind of different, but yeah, that's fine. So the squadron commander said, there's one more thing too, Mikey. He says, I need you to come over to the house at 6 or so. You're going to get a haircut. And Mikey says, what makes you think I need a haircut? And the squadron commander said, you always need a haircut, Mike. And true to form today, I think if I were to Zoom call him, there's a good chance of it. Of course, I'm one to speak today too. At any rate, Mikey gets his haircut, heads down to the squadron, and he and General Yeager brief and go out on a flight, uneventful, unremarkable. Come back in and land, and that's it. They shake hands and part and go their own ways. Now, Wednesday rolls around, and Mikey thinks to himself, wonder if my girlfriend could meet me for happy hour. So he says, well, why not? So he gives her a call, and she says, yeah, I'd love to come out for happy hour. She says, I'm really interested in hearing how your check ride went. And Mikey thinks to himself, well, wait a minute, I haven't talked to her. How did she know I had a check ride? We'll find out tonight. So when they meet up at the club, Mikey, get their drinks, Mikey asks her, he says, how did you know I had a check ride? And she says, Sunday evening when you dropped me off and I walked in the house, she said, Uncle Chuck and Dad were there just drunker than skunks. And she said, we got to talking and he asked me where I'd been. I told him, and he asked me what you did, and I told him. He said, is he any good? And she says, well, I don't know. And he said, well, I'll go fly with the son of a bitch and find out myself. So Mikey thinks to himself, oh, geez, I was set up. Just set up. And all well and good. Nothing more came of it. Now we roll the clock ahead 25 years or so, maybe 20, 25 years. And Mikey's flying for Air Life down in San Antonio. And one night he gets a call from P.K. Carlton, a squadron mate of his at the Air Force Academy. And P.K. now's a flight surgeon, might have been the Surgeon General, I don't know what he was doing at that time. Anyway, so Mikey gets this call, and PK says, you'll never guess who we have at Wilford Hall in the hospital. And Mikey says, you're probably right, I wouldn't guess. He says, General Yeager. Mikey said, really, what happened? Well, it turns out General Yeager was trimming trees in Kerrville, Texas, live oaks. So he has his ladder up on this live oak, and he's up there cutting trees, and he cuts this one branch off. Well, when the branch dropped, the tree went this way, and he's standing up there on the ladder with this chainsaw. Not good. So he jettisons the chainsaw and then fell to the ground and blew out a lung. Well, they medevaced him down to Wilford. When he got to Wilford, of course, they admitted him, and that's when P.K. Carlton caught up with Mikey. So Mikey is on call that night, and true to form, he gets a call to pick up some guy, take him to the hospital. So he does. When he lands at 1 or 2 in the morning, he decides to take a little bit of a break and head down to the ward to see if he can see General Yeager. Well, when he gets to the ward, it's all quiet in there, and a few people around, buzzing around, but not a lot. So Mikey goes up the nursing station, and there's this real cute little first lieutenant with a pixie haircut. And Mike's in a flight suit, and he says, I understand General Yeager's here. And she said, yes, he is. And he said, would you mind if I popped in to see him? He said, we flew together in the Air Force. Well, that was a stretch, but anyway, it worked. Mikey said, listen, he said, if he's sleeping, I won't bother him. I won't wake him. I said, I'll just peek in, and if he's awake, I'll go in and say hi. If not, well, we'll just leave it at that. She says, yeah, that'd be fine. So Mike goes down, opens the general's room, and sure enough, he's sleeping. So Mike goes back to the nursing station, and he says to the gal, he says, he is asleep. He said, would you mind if I left a note for him? She said, oh, no, that'd be fine. So she gives Mike a pad of paper, and Mike writes down, General Yeager, I stopped in to administer your meds, and you were sleeping so peacefully with the most magnificent woody I've ever seen on a man. She said, it was something to behold. She said, please ring your call button when you wake up, and I'll bring your meds down. And he folded we signed it, the nurse's name, folded the note up, and took it down and left it on General Yeager's table. As he walked out, he said he was thinking to himself, it took me 25 years, maybe 26, 27, but I got that son of a bitch. That was Mikey.